saying, hey, how do I go from, I want to build I want to build a sales development campaign, sequence, program. How do I create that strategy? Is a common question. And so what I want to do is just kind of sit down with you and talk about your thoughts on what is an outbound strategy? Where does it start? Where does it come from?
Yeah. So when people like clients, especially when clients sign up for us, like we typically like to go live in 2 weeks. And so that's not enough time to learn about their whole business and everything they do. So you really focus it on like one use case. What's their core use case, the best converting use case? That's typically where we're starting. Um, and so you kind of build your messaging around that, tying in lots of pain into that messaging and the value of your product and how you kind of tie pain to value there. Um, the call script is the same thing, right? It's like opening up the conversation, asking some questions, fishing a little bit for pain, and then being able to tie that pain to value. So you kind of go through based on their specific, if it's like a company that just does one thing, or if they have a ton of different things that they do, kind of write up the use cases, the pain that people might be experiencing, the value, and then always a case study. It's super helpful. You can tie that all together, um, just to add credibility when you're emailing or when you're on the phone with somebody. That process typically just takes pretty quick, like writing your sequence, you're developing your call script, and then the first 2 weeks is like battling it, testing it out. So you're sending emails out, you're looking for some replies, you're looking for on the phone, like is the script, does it feel smooth? All of our account managers, they call as well for this, as well as the SDRs. So they're seeing like, is the script smooth? Does it make sense? Are we hitting the right questions? That like iteration process just kind of continues forever. And once you're live, you're always doing that. But yeah, the best way to do it is to break into bite-sized chunks. It is really how you should build up any playbook that you're starting, is instead of just saying like, oh, how are we going to build this like massive playbook that's going to be outdated as soon as we finish writing it. It should all be based around these like bite-sized chunks, these things that you know to be true to work for you. So you find something that works and you're like, okay, great, that can go in the playbook. So for example, one of our customers, they sell a good piece of software for logistics, and so companies who ship full truckloads and things like that. And a campaign that worked really well for us was this, when you're thinking of a campaign, you want to tie it into a trigger as well. You're always going to have that like benchmark generic campaign that's like, hey, these are a good person, I want to talk to them. There's no reason for me to reach out to. There's no acquisition. There's no funding raise. There's no new hires or company growth. It's just a good person, I want to talk to them. So that's really important to have that. But where you can get super, super successful when you start to build messaging around a trigger. So you can say, for new hire campaigns, for example, is a go-to for us. But that doesn't work for like managers. You're targeting like a manager, a new hire campaign isn't super successful. They're 3 months into role. They're like, listen, man, I don't make the decisions here. I'm just a manager. Like, I'm just trying to keep my head down kind of thing, just figure out the ropes. But a VP is totally different. Someone brought into a senior leadership role is brought in to make changes. That's why they were brought in. They weren't brought in to keep the status quo like maybe a manager would, or slightly less senior. And so you're saying targeting these VPs, and the messaging is, so the pain is still there. But the messaging is all about, hey, we know you're coming in to make an impact. Here's how other companies have adopted this. And there's natural buying intent with VPs and there's typically a little bit of wiggle room for budget for projects. In fact, it's expected of them. And so you're offering them some value there to say like, hey, this isn't on your radar. This could make sense for what you do. This could be one of the first things that you tackle. And so you have that core campaign, and then you kind of adapt it to that trigger. So you kind of have the pain and the messaging based on your use case, and then sort of variants of it based on trigger. And the same thing can go for funding. Same thing can go for high employee growth. You really just have to figure out, based on your product, where is pain going to be exemplified? Like, where is it the strongest? And so for like, if you sell employee onboarding and offboarding like compliance, if a company is flat and they're not really growing, you're probably not going to land super well. And even a new person coming in, you try and run that campaign, they're not really growing. And so a new VP is going to go, not really for us, but if a new VP is brought into a company that's exploding in growth, all of a sudden this onboarding software, hey, this is actually a huge pain point for us and a huge buying trigger. So totally, I know it's like a really hard answer because it like totally depends on the client. Yeah, it's just biting into bite-sized chunk, like really having a strong idea, not of what their solution does, but of the pain that it solves, the value of your product, some social proof, like a case study, and any real metrics that you have that you can throw in there always add credibility.